Growing up, I was the invisible child in my own home, overshadowed by my brother Mike, the so-called golden child. Every misstep of mine was met with harsh punishment, while Mike's worst offenses were dismissed with a laugh. Once, when we both broke a vase, I was grounded for weeks, yet Mike walked away unscathed, claiming innocence despite my parents witnessing his clumsiness. This relentless favoritism wasn't subtle, it was suffocating. When I earned straight A's, I got a pat on the back, but Mike received an expensive gaming console just for trying. Their excuses always cut deep: Mike is younger, or you're the older one, you should know better. Gaslighting became their weapon, making me question my worth daily. My childhood wasn't just unfair, it was toxic, planting seeds of resentment that would explode years later. As we grew older, the favoritism didn't fade, it festered. When I earned a partial scholarship to a prestigious university, my parents barely acknowledged it. "It's not full ride," they muttered dismissively. Meanwhile, Mike dropped out of community college after one semester, claiming he wasn't cut out for academics. Instead of holding him accountable, our parents threw him a party celebrating his self-awareness and gifted him a brand new car. Never mind that I'd been biking 10 miles daily to juggle school and 2 jobs just to survive. Their warped logic was always the same: Mike is different. Over the years, they poured thousands into his endless string of failed businesses, from a doomed food truck to an abandoned gym startup, all while I scraped by on ramen noodles and sleepless nights. Each failure only fueled their excuses. He's creative, or entrepreneurship takes risks. The more they coddled him, the deeper my resentment burned. By the time I graduated with honors, working double shifts and taking loans, I realized no accomplishment of mine would ever matter in their eyes. Mike could crash and burn repeatedly, yet he remained their golden child, a constant reminder of how little I was worth in their world. I met Sarah through Mike. Ironically enough, she was dating one of his short-term flings at the time. From our first conversation, I knew she was different: brilliant, witty, and kind in a way that felt almost too good to be true. For the first time in my life, I felt seen and valued. She wasn't just beautiful, she radiated warmth, intelligence, and humor. We clicked instantly, bonding over shared dreams of travel, careers, and even starting families someday. It was intoxicating, a love so pure it made me forget years of pain inflicted by my family. My parents weren't thrilled, though. "She's out of your league," they sneered, their words dripping with disdain. Mike, however, took an unsettling interest. At first, I thought he was being supportive, asking about her hobbies, complimenting her, but soon, his questions turned invasive. He'd text me constantly: "What does she like? Where is she from? Does she want kids?" His tone shifted from curiosity to obsession, but I dismissed it as sibling rivalry or harmless curiosity. Looking back, those early signs should have terrified me. Instead, I was blinded by happiness, oblivious to how quickly paradise could turn into hell. After 4 years of bliss, I decided to propose to Sarah on our anniversary. It wasn't extravagant, just a quiet dinner at home with a heartfelt speech. When she said yes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We planned for a long engagement, savoring the idea of building a future together. But as weeks turned into months, cracks began to form in our perfect picture. Work consumed us both, late nights at the office became routine, and we barely saw each other. At first, I chalked it up to stress, but Sarah's behavior grew increasingly strange. She'd disappear for hours, claiming girls' nights or work events, yet her texts were vague, her excuses rehearsed. The scent of cologne lingered on her clothes more often than not, and her phone was perpetually locked, its screen lighting up with notifications she'd quickly silence. My gut twisted with unease, but I dismissed my doubts, convincing myself I was overthinking things. After all, this was Sarah, the woman who made me believe love could conquer anything. Still, there were moments that gnawed at me: the way she flinched when I hugged her from behind, how her laughter seemed forced during our rare dinners together. And then there was Mike. He'd call constantly, asking about wedding plans under the guise of curiosity, his tone laced with something I couldn't quite place: mockery, possessiveness. I tried to shake it off, telling myself he was just being nosy. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the growing storm clouds gathering around us. Every unanswered question felt like a crack widening between us, every glance at her phone a dagger twisting in my chest. The night Sarah confessed, my world imploded. She sat across from me, tears streaming down her face, but all I could feel was the deafening roar of betrayal in my ears. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, her voice trembling. For a split second, my heart soared until the next words shattered everything. "But it's not yours." My mind went blank. The air felt thick, suffocating, as if the walls were closing in on me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could hear was the echo of her admission slicing through every ounce of trust I'd ever placed in her. When I asked who the father was, she hesitated before choking out his name. Mike, my brother, my own flesh and blood. It wasn't just an affair, it was calculated cruelty. She explained how Mike had approached her at our engagement party, planting seeds of doubt about our future together. He said you weren't good enough for me, she sobbed, that he could give me more than you ever could. What started as manipulation turned into months of lies, deceit, and stolen moments behind my back. Every glance at her phone, every late-night absence, every forced smile suddenly made sense. My stomach churned with nausea, anger boiling beneath my skin like molten lava. How could they do this? To me, to us. Everything we'd built, the love, the plans, the dreams, was nothing but a facade. They didn't just betray me, they obliterated the life I thought I had. That night, I couldn't bear to look at Sarah, the woman who had shattered my life while wearing the ring I gave her. Get out, I said, my voice trembling with rage. She begged me to forgive her, claiming it was a mistake, but every word felt like salt in an open wound. How could she stand there and lie to my face after everything? After she left, I called Mike, though I barely remember what I said. It was a blur of fury and pain. When I confronted him, he tried to play it off as a drunken mistake, but when I pressed him, he smirked and said, well, maybe if you'd been a better fiancé, she wouldn't have come to me. That was the final straw. I stormed to his apartment, ready to make him pay for his betrayal, only to find my parents already there. Of course, they believed him. My mother lectured me about forgiveness, while my father stood silently, arms crossed, glaring at me as if I were the villain. They demanded I reconcile, claiming family comes first, but their words only fueled my anger. Years of resentment boiled over. I screamed at them, telling them they'd always chosen Mike over me, that I was done being their scapegoat. I told Mike he was dead to me and walked out, ignoring their cries. Within days, I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, and vowed never to look back. The pressure from my family was relentless. Every day felt like a new assault on my sanity. My parents bombarded me with calls, texts, and voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. You're tearing this family apart, my mother screamed, as if I were the villain in this twisted drama. My father took a different approach, cold and condescending, reminding me how family always comes first. But their words rang hollow. They didn't care about unity, they cared about saving face. Then came the flying monkeys, as I called them, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly reappearing to guilt-trip me into forgiving Mike and Sarah. Blood is thicker than water, they'd say, as though that excused betrayal, deceit, and cruelty. One cousin even had the audacity to tell me, everyone makes mistakes, you need to let this go. Let it go? How could I when every conversation felt like another dagger twisting in my chest? They acted as if Mike and Sarah's actions were minor infractions, a simple misunderstanding rather than the life-shattering betrayal they truly were. The worst part was their refusal to acknowledge the truth. When I tried to explain, they dismissed me, claiming I was overreacting or being selfish. It wasn't just frustrating, it was suffocating. Each attempt at reconciliation felt like another attempt to erase my pain, to invalidate everything I'd been through. The betrayal consumed me, leaving me hollow and broken. Nights became endless battles with insomnia, my mind replaying every lie, every moment of deceit. I stopped eating, stopped caring, work emails piled up unanswered, deadlines slipped by unnoticed. Colleagues noticed the change, I could see it in their concerned glances, but I couldn't bring myself to explain. How could I put into words the suffocating weight of betrayal by my own family? Desperation led me to therapy, where I sat in silence for weeks, unable to articulate the storm inside. Slowly, I began to unpack the pain. Sarah's smile, Mike's smirk, my parents' dismissive stares. But healing felt impossible while they still loomed over my life. That's when I hired a lawyer to fight back, to reclaim control. Filing for a restraining order wasn't just legal action, it was survival. Every signature on those papers felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Yet fear lingered. What if the law couldn't protect me? What if they found a way around it? For the first time, though, I felt a flicker of hope. Taking this step wasn't just about justice, it was about proving to myself that I deserved better. The courtroom felt like a battleground. My parents showed up with an expensive lawyer, spinning lies to paint me as the villain. He's tearing our family apart over a simple misunderstanding, my mother sobbed, while my father glared at me as if I'd committed a crime. Mike smirked from across the room, his smug expression screaming confidence that they'd win. But when the judge issued the restraining order against them, relief washed over me only for a moment. My mother's dramatic outburst in court, "How could you do this to your own family?" and Mike's parting threat, "This isn't over," left me shaken. The legal victory was hollow. Their refusal to accept responsibility proved how far they'd go to manipulate the narrative. Back at work, things escalated further. My mother ambushed me in the office lobby, waving old photo albums of Mike and me as toddlers, loudly reminiscing about how close we used to be. Coworkers stared awkwardly as she broke down, accusing me of abandoning my family. When I threatened to call security, her face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this." That incident sealed my fate. My boss called me into his office days later, suggesting a personal sabbatical. He praised my skills but said tensions were affecting morale. Translation: they wanted me gone for now. I packed up my desk under whispers and judgmental stares, feeling utterly powerless. Between the courtroom drama and workplace chaos, it seemed there was no escape from their toxic reach. Last Saturday, I went to the gym hoping to burn off some frustration on the punching bag. I was so focused that I didn't notice Mike until his smug voice cut through the air. "Heard you've been running your mouth," he sneered, breaking the restraining order like it was nothing. My blood boiled as he stood there, mocking me in front of everyone. When I told him to leave before I called the cops, he actually laughed and said he'd tell them how I had threatened him and Sarah. That was it. Something inside me snapped. I swung at him, my fist connecting with his jaw. He stumbled back but quickly lunged at me, and within seconds, we were on the floor, throwing punches like animals. Years of resentment, betrayal, and rage poured out in every blow. The staff finally pulled us apart, but not before both of us were battered, Mike's nose gushing blood, my eyes swelling shut. As we screamed at each other, trying to break free and keep fighting, the manager threatened to call the police. Humiliated and shaking, I grabbed my things and left. Later, I found out Mike filed assault charges against me, adding insult to injury. The gym banned us both permanently, stripping away one of the few places where I felt in control. This wasn't just a fight, it was a war, and neither of us was backing down. Amid the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged: Emma, Sarah's younger sister. She reached out to me on social media, apologizing for her sister's actions and offering support. At first, I was skeptical. Was this another trick orchestrated by Mike or Sarah? But as we talked, it became clear that Emma despised what they'd done. She revealed how Sarah was spinning a narrative online, portraying herself as the victim who never meant to hurt anyone. Worse, she shared that Sarah and Mike were flaunting their relationship, posting ultrasound photos with captions about finding true love against all odds. Each detail Emma provided felt like a fresh wound, but also a wake-up call. For the first time, I had someone on my side who understood the full scope of their deceit. Emma even warned me about Sarah's manipulative tendencies, recounting past incidents where Sarah lied to get sympathy from others. Her insight made me realize just how calculated their betrayal had been. Though her revelations were painful, Emma's support gave me clarity and strength to face the truth. After everything, Sarah's betrayal, Mike's smugness, my parents' relentless gaslighting, I realized staying in this city was no longer an option. Every street corner, every cafe, even the gym, held memories that felt like open wounds. I couldn't breathe here anymore. When the opportunity arose to transfer to Seattle for work, I didn't hesitate. It wasn't just a new job, it was a lifeline, a chance to escape the suffocating weight of my past. My family tried everything to stop me. My mother showed up unannounced at my apartment, sobbing hysterically about abandoning them. "Family is everything," she screamed, as if they hadn't already torn ours apart. My father yelled accusations, calling me selfish and immature, but I tuned them out. I called the police when they violated the restraining order again, watching coldly as officers escorted them off the property. Mike, predictably, took to social media, painting himself as the victim while boasting about his new chapter with Sarah. His posts were filled with fake humility, claiming he forgave me for being so bitter. But none of it mattered anymore. I was done letting their toxicity dictate my life. As I packed my belongings into boxes, I felt something unfamiliar: hope. Seattle wasn't just another city, it was freedom from their lies, manipulation, and cruelty. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I wasn't defined by pain. As I packed the last of my belongings, the chaos outside my door reached a fever pitch. My parents showed up unannounced again, violating the restraining order in a desperate attempt to stop me from leaving. "You're throwing away your family for this," My mother screamed, tears streaming down her face. My father stood behind her, his arms crossed, glaring at me as if I were the one who had betrayed them. But their words no longer carried weight. They felt like echoes from a past life I was determined to leave behind. Mike, perhaps sensing that direct confrontation would only worsen his legal troubles, took to social media instead. He posted a long, self-pitying rant about how some people can't handle happiness and accused me of being bitter and jealous. The post was clearly aimed at painting himself as the victim, a tactic I knew all too well. What shocked me most, though, was Sarah's reaction. After our explosive phone call, she broke down completely. According to Emma, she realized the gravity of what she'd done, not just to me, but to everyone, and feared the future. Her guilt came too late, but it wasn't enough to sway me. I had already made up my mind. Seattle was my fresh start, my escape from their toxicity. When my parents finally left, escorted out by security after I called the police yet again, I closed the door with a finality that felt liberating. Their cries of "you'll regret this" followed me inside, but I didn't care anymore. For the first time, I felt truly free. Seattle feels like a second chance, a clean slate where no one knows my name or the wreckage I left behind. Every morning, as I walk through the misty streets, I remind myself that this city isn't just a new location, it's a promise to myself. A promise to let go of the anger, betrayal, and pain that have haunted me for so long. It hasn't been easy some nights. Memories of Sarah's smile or Mike's smirk creep into my dreams, threatening to pull me back under. But I refuse to let them win. This is my fresh start, and I'm determined to make it count. I've started exploring hobbies I never had time for before, hiking in the lush forests surrounding the city, learning photography, even joining a local book club. Each small step forward feels like reclaiming a piece of myself I thought was lost forever. Before leaving, I promised myself I wouldn't look back, and I won't. To everyone on Reddit who stood by me during my darkest days, thank you. Your words kept me afloat when I felt like drowning. You reminded me that there's still kindness in this world, even when everything felt broken. Here's to new beginnings, to hope, resilience, and finding peace after chaos. As I sit here in my new apartment in Seattle, surrounded by boxes yet to be unpacked, I feel a strange mix of emotions: fear, hope, and an overwhelming sense of freedom. This city represents more than just a fresh start, it's proof that I survived the unthinkable. To everyone on Reddit who stood by me through this nightmare, thank you. Your words reminded me that even in my darkest moments, there are still good people willing to listen without judgment. You gave me strength when I had none left. Moving forward won't be easy, the scars will always remain, but I now believe in my ability to rebuild not just my life but also my trust in myself. For anyone reading this who feels trapped or betrayed, know this: resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every time you do. Here's to finding peace after chaos and discovering who we truly are when everything falls apart.